Yes. All right. So let's clean this baby. Oh, hi guys. You're back? Okay, welcome back to the GT6 restoration on the Rusty Beauties channel. I probably showed you already what we've done in the previous episode in black and white. You like that, don't you? With a little bit of a ragtime background. Probably that's something like that. Anyway, so we prepared most of the parts for assembling. So now let's start assembling the engine. First of all, I want to clean the block perfectly, so there's nothing foreign into the cylinders and anywhere. We're gonna blow it. We're gonna make sure that all the oil passages are clean, and then we're gonna start the assembling. And what I'd like to do is to put the camshaft in and maybe check the lift, because I don't know, I never done that, but why don't I? It's gonna be nice to know that I have the same lift on all the intake and all the exhaust. I don't know the spec, but as long as it's consistent, that's gonna tell me that it is in the proper lift. Maybe I can go and look it up, actually. We will see. Before we go too far though with the cleaning, I'm forgetting something. I wanted to check inside here the water jacket with a piece of wire to make sure that there's nothing at the bottom, like there's no crud that we need to get rid of. If there is, we can reach from many places and just scrape it a little bit and then blow it out. And you see there is. So that was the main reason why we removed the core plugs, right? So we can reach to the water jacket. So let me actually see with this piece of wire if I reach from here. Yeah. There's some stuff here, so need something more solid, but that's too big. All right, piece of brake line. Yeah. Ooh, there's lots of stuff here. Yeah, especially here at the end of the engine, there's always stuff. Okay. Like here, I can feel the bottom of the water jacket and it's clean. And here, but in the front, in the rear end, yeah, here it is directly to the bottom, nice and clean. I don't know if you can see there, let me show you. So there are holes here, this one, this oblong one, this hole, these two, and these two. And on this side, you don't have too much access on this side, but on this, here you can go through the core plug a little bit. You can't go too far, but you can scrape a little bit from here. I don't know here. No, these are for the studs. These are for the head studs. So no, we can't have access from here. This one is for the oil to the head. So that's all the access we have from here. But anyway, so what I'm trying here to do is to scrape it so it's loose, and then we're gonna flip it upside down and we're gonna blow through everywhere we can. So this is where the water gets the least circulation, the coolant, I should say. And the heavier stuff like rust flakes and stuff, they just sit there. They don't go anywhere else. Yeah, so I was too excited about assembling. There's more things to do. Also, we have to chase all the threads. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Alright, that's the best we can do. It's not the best, but it is the best we can do. Alright, now let's chase all the threads quickly, everywhere. I haven't removed those plugs from the oil gallery. That's the only thing I haven't removed. And I wish I did, but they're really easy to round. I think I rounded these two already, the hex inside. And I said, no, I'm not gonna bother with that. It's an oil gallery, so there shouldn't be any dirt in it. I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna grab a, okay. So I'm gonna grab a drill. So I'm gonna grab a drill and a tap, and we're gonna go through all of them, all the holes, and we're gonna chase them quickly. And since we are upside down, we're gonna start with these, the sump, and they are 5/16 24 tap. And it's best to set up the clutch so it starts skipping at some point, so you don't break your tap inside the hose, you know. Now you see there's so many holes that are through, and they go into the oil inside, but we never use copper washers on them. At least originally there are no copper washers on them, so that's funny. These two are going right through, so maybe it's a good idea if we use copper washers on our fuel pump. That's interesting. I just wiped everywhere inside, especially here where the bearings go. We're gonna wipe them again before we put the bearings, because that's really important, because if we have any debris here, the bearings are not gonna lay flat in their beds. That's gonna affect, of course, our gap between the bearing and the crank. I also wiped the camshaft bearing surfaces. We don't have bearings here on the camshaft for TR6 and GT6. For whatever reason, the engineers decided that there's no need of bearings. There's just machine surface on the block that acts as a bearing. I blew through all the oil passages. So how things work here, from the oil gallery, there's passage through here that feeds the main bearings, each and every one, and from the main bearings through the crank there's all passages that go to the connecting rod, and also there are passages from the gallery to the camshaft bearings or bearing surfaces, and from that last one only, that's the only one, and there's an oil passage from the camshaft bearing down, in this case because we're upside down. Normally it's up to the head, to the rocker shaft. So I blew through that passage from the bottom up to make sure that there's nothing there, and that's it. Now I think we should install the camshaft, but I'd like to measure my lift. Now, of course, before we install it in, we need to lubricate all our surfaces here. We need to put assembly lube on all of them, and I'm just gonna put a whole bunch. Okay, let's put it in. Yay, the first part goes in. I always start with the camshaft because it's deep down there and it's hard to reach later and do what I'm just doing right now. You see, I'm lifting the front end. If you have the crankshaft there, connecting rods, you're not going to be able to reach. So that's why I always put it first. Okay, it's in. So So now let's turn it upside down or the right side up and measure the lift. I put all the studs here, even though I don't know if I'm gonna keep them. Maybe I'm gonna take them out if they're in my way. If we need to, we're gonna take them out. So for TR6 there are two longer studs that there's a little bit of a dilemma. People have different opinions about where they go, but for GT6 all the studs are the same length and they have the same thread on both sides. For TR4, for example, the threads are coarse for the bottom and fine for the top. For GT6 and TR6, the threads are the same size. I believe that's 3/8-24. I'm not really sure, but the length of the threads, you see this side is shorter, this side is longer. So the shorter side is at the bottom, and as long as all the threads go in the block, you don't need to torque them, because when you torque the top, the nut on the top, that's when the tension spreads evenly in both sides. So it doesn't really matter if you torque these. It's important though that you make sure that all the threads go inside the block. Alright, then we're gonna take two of our new tappets that we got from Moss Motors, so parts number 838300. These are the same for GT6 and TR6. I'm gonna put some assembly lube, put them in cylinder number 1. And then we're gonna install our setup for timing. So these are two push rods that I cut shorter and I welded washers to them so I can put them inside the tappets. Then I can put two springs on them, and then I can put this plate on the 4 studs and run the push rods through these 2 holes here. Okay, then I can put not even 4, just 2 of these tubes. These are from electrical conduit that I cut to keep my plate down. Okay, the plate is laying flat, so now as I'm turning my camshaft, my push rods go up and down and I can measure my lift. So we're gonna have to move that setup to each and every cylinder, but I really want to measure my lift here. Alright, so here my setup is ready. Okay, so let's zero it when it's down. Okay. And that's my intake now. Well, I don't know. Usually for my timing I start with the intake, that's why. But anyways, so now we're spinning the camshaft, nothing is happening. Now it starts lifting, so that's 100, 200, 243 thou, right? And then it keeps going down to 0. Let's do one more time. 100, 243. Okay, that's for the intake. And let's measure the exhaust. Yeah, now it's all the way down. $200, oh, and 12, 213. Okay, 0. 213. That's not good, because let me show you why. I don't have the spec for GT6. I can't find what normally the lift would be. So I came to the Moss Motors website. The camshaft is this part number. So when I open it, and if you click on fitment, it tells you that this camshaft is used for Triumph GT6 from 72 to 73 GT6, but it may be used on earlier engines. So that tells me that earlier engines had different camshaft, but also the same camshaft is used for Triumph TR6 and 250. So it is the same as TR250 and TR6. Then I went and I made a little research and I found this excellent chart here. Performance camshaft for the Triumph TR6, and you can see here the specs for many different crankshafts. like fast road 83, fast road 89, Richard Good camshaft. So somebody took their time and they did a great job finding all this information and putting it together. Let me see who that is. I'm just gonna duplicate it so I don't lose it. Back to my Triumph TR6 page, and that is Hot TR6. Anyways, I don't know who that is, but I really appreciate what they've done with this chart. Anyway, so if you come here to the top of this chart, let me turn you around a little bit because you don't see everything apparently. So this is the stock camshaft for PI, the petrol injection. You have two different camshafts apparently. So you have 35, 65, 65, 35, and then you have 18, 58, 58, 18. And these are for earlier and for later cars. And then you have the USA spec for the later. So the early TR6s and GT6 were 10, 50, 50, 10, and the late ones were 18, 58, 58, 18. But here you can see the lift, and according to me, we are in this area, 24. We had 243 lift on the intake, right? But the exhaust was a little bit lower. It was 213. And it says low lift, doesn't say for intake or exhaust. So I believe that our intake and exhaust need to have the same lift. And our lift on our intake and exhaust are different so far. So in this case, I'm just gonna go and measure all of them and we will see what's going on. Maybe we will need another camshaft, which is gonna be too bad. Anyways, let me measure them all and then we're gonna think about possible solutions for this. All right, so they are all a few thou above 240. So 46, 42, 42, 5, 4, 2, 5, 5, 0, 43. And only this one is like 30 thou less, the exhaust on the first cylinder. So I'm really hoping that this is an error on my setup. Maybe there was debris or something on the camshaft and the tappet wasn't going on the way down. So I'm just gonna go and check it again, because it would be a shame if we have to throw this camshaft away just for one cam. I was really hoping to start assembling today, but that might not be an option in this case. Let's hope that it is an error, because I had similar thing happening here on one of the tappets. It wasn't going down, but it was like a lot more. It was only moving up and down 50 thou. And that's what made me check it. And it turned out that for whatever reason, there was something in the bore or something. When I pushed it down, it went much lower. So I'm hoping that that was the case with the first one too. All right. So that's, I'm gonna push it up a little. Okay. Okay. That's our 0. Fingers crossed. Huh, actually went 41. Exhaust, right? Exhaust intake. Okay. So let's do that again. Goes back to 0. You see, that's the problem. Now, it's not going all the way down. Okay, let's 0 it again. Okay, it's showing 1. It's not 0, it's 1. 242. Yes. Oh. Oh. And going back down. But you see where it stops? So there's something that's stopping it. And that's why it's caused me troubles. There's something in the bore. 50, 100, 242. Okay, so our camshaft is good. Whew. Relax. So now that I'm editing this video, I saw something that should have given me a clue the first time around when I measured it, but I didn't pay attention to it. So let's go back and pay attention to it this time. So this is the first time when I measured, and you see here when I finished, it went below 0, which if I paid attention to, it was gonna give me a clue that something is going on, and I was gonna save myself all this worry. That looks better. All right, crisis averted, but that scared the sugar out of me, you know? Oof. Anyways, now we can start the actual assembling. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just can't fight it. So, first thing after the camshaft, of course, is to install the crankshaft. We still have the old gear here and the shim. We're gonna take them out once we put it in the block. What we have to do first, we have to make sure that the oil passage from the main bearing to the connecting rod bearing is clear. So here you see this hole, it connects with this hole on the pin for the connecting rod. So we need to make sure that there's nothing inside. Then we have, then for this pin, the hole is on this side, right here. Then this other hole leads to the other pin. Good. Then we have another one here. And another one here. Perfect. So we just want to make sure that since the crankshaft was sitting here for a few weeks, a bug or something didn't decide to make a home inside. So these are our bearings from Moss Motors, part number 822100, standard size. We determined that the crankshaft is not worn, so we're gonna take 4 of the shells and we're gonna install them here dry. We wiped this before, but we're gonna wipe it again to make sure that there's no debris or anything that can keep our bearings high. They need to be able to lay in their beds. Same way, we're gonna make sure that the back of the bearing is clean, and the bearing has this little tab that needs to fit inside this notch. And make sure that they are flat here with the surface. No lubrication behind the bearing. Okay. Now we're gonna wipe them again. Make sure that they're clean. Make sure that the hole on the bearing matches the oil passages here. It should, if you match the tab on this side, the holes should match too, but just in case. Then we're gonna lubricate them. We're gonna put assembly lube, and we're using assembly lube, not oil, because the oil, if the engine sits after it's assembled for a while before the first start, the oil is gonna just seep through everywhere and just drain down into the oil sump. But the assembly lube has different characteristics, I guess. It's sticky and it stays for a much longer time wherever you put it. And now I'm gonna clean the main journals of the crankshaft, and we're gonna bring it and drop it here too. All right. Oh. And there you go. Whew. All right. Welcome home, baby. Now we have to put our thrust washer, or washers. So now here, before we took apart the engine, we measured the end play of the crankshaft, and we're using standard size thrust washers. And they go like this, with the copper side towards the crankshaft, because the crankshaft has the bearing surface there, right? The thrust surface. They just go like that into that hole. And I'm gonna push it forward as much as I can. And now we can spin it inside like this. And now we're gonna push it back like that. Oops. And we can install our other half. And we can install our other half here. So this one goes the other direction, again with the copper part, which is our bearing surface, towards the crankshaft. On this side there's another bearing surface for the thrust washer. So it goes inside the hole and it can spin around, and that's it. Okay, so now we're gonna put our cups, we're gonna torque them, and then we're gonna measure the end play to make sure that everything is okay with it. Alright, so now for the main bearing cups, we're gonna clean them, of course, again. We're gonna put a bearing the same way. It has a tab here and there's a notch on the cup. So that's how it goes. Now this hole doesn't match anything, but they make holes on all the bearings so we don't mess them up. Because if they make 4 with hose and 4 without hose, we might put the 4 without hose down there and block the oil passage. So just in case. So then we're gonna put assembly loop on this bearing as well, even though the crankshaft is already lubricated, but we want to make sure that we have assembly loop everywhere. So now this cup has a number here, and this one is number 1. So it goes at the front, of course, and we should be able to read the number in the same direction as it is stamped here on the block. I don't know if you see, but I have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 here stamped, and they're stamped in such orientation that I can read them from here. For you, they're upside down. So I have to hold the cup in the same orientation as the mark here, and I'm gonna put it there. So this is number 2, and the 2 is on this orientation, so that's how it goes. Another sign that tells you how the orientation of this cup is, if you can't really read the number, for example here, my 2 is really badly stamped, I can barely see it, but if you see where the tab is, it goes on the same place where the tab on the block is. They are on the same side. I know you can't see it on this side, the tab on the block, but it's on my side. So this is number 3, that's how I can read it. And also the tab is on my side where the tab on the block is. So that's how it goes. There's no lock washers or tab washers on these boats for whatever reason. I don't know why. And number 4, in this orientation, again the tab is towards me. And then we're just gonna drive them down with my screw gun, and then we're gonna torque them. So the torque here is 65 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna torque them. Okay, and if everything is okay here, we should be able still to spin the crankshaft. Nice. Nice and smooth. Okay, now let's check the end play. Let's push it all the way forward, like that. So that's gonna be our 0. So the end play here needs to be between 6 and 8 thou. So 6, 7, or 8. Let's push it back now. That's 6. There you go. Perfect. We consider the crankshaft installed then and torqued. So we're gonna replace this gear, and as a matter of fact, I bought TR6 setup for here with double rolled gears. Yeah, let's start with the pistons. So we're gonna put cylinder number 1 at bottom dead center, the crankshaft. I'll show you why later. So it is the next day actually. Last night I got a little bit tired and I just decided to stop. But we're back today for just a power hour because it's about 5 p.m. Oh, that's a chain, that's not bearings. I almost put the chain on the connecting rods. They look the same, don't they? Okay. But anyways, I came for a power hour and I think we can install the pistons in the block, and at least that we can do today. So we can say that we worked on Friday, Saturday and Sunday on this engine. We're gonna take 2 bearings and we're gonna install them now on the connecting rod and the cap. So these are standard. We determined that in one of the previous videos. We measured, we determined that the crankshaft is still the standard size. We cleaned these before, remember, but we're gonna wipe them one more time now. The bearings themselves need to be clean as well. Again, we have a tab, just like the main bearings, we have a tab here that goes into this notch of the connecting rod. Make sure that this is flush here, the 2 surfaces. And we're not gonna put assembly lube yet, we're gonna put it later inside the block. Now this is ready, so now let's go and prepare the cylinder for the piston. So here, first of all, we're gonna install this. This is my mount, homemade mount for the degree wheel that goes on the crankshaft, but I also use it to spin the crankshaft when I need to, because this is one of these sleeves that goes here, and I welded some stuff here, but I can put my ratchet here. That's how I use it. We still have the key on the crankshaft, so now we can spin it. Then we're gonna lubricate it, and we're not gonna use assembly lube in the cylinders. I'm sorry guys if you've watched recently my TR4 engine rebuild video. I'm gonna say pretty much the same things here, but that's for the people who in the future are gonna watch this GT6 series and they will not necessarily watch my TR4 videos as well, so I'm sorry. So we're gonna lubricate the whole cylinder with oil. This is engine oil. We don't want to use assembly lube here because I've been told that when the assembly lube burns, it creates something, and it is not great for the cylinder. So I'm using my left hand, which fits inside the cylinder, you see, and I'm using even the back of my hand to make sure that we have oil everywhere. If your hand is bigger and doesn't fit inside, you have to find a different way to lubricate the cylinder. Then we're gonna take our piston, and even though I already put assembly lube here, I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil inside. Then we're gonna lubricate the rings as well. That's important, we don't want them to go dry. Okay, if you can dip it into oil, it would be great. Just go plonk, plonk. And now we can put it inside, and we said that the open part of the connecting rod needs to be pointing towards the busy side of the block, and your arrow here needs to point forward. Yes, I forgot. We need to stagger the rings. So we're gonna put the 3 gaps in 3 different locations. So I'm gonna put the oil ring, the gap here towards the open side, let's say. Then this gap I'm gonna put on this side, and then this gap I'm gonna put on this side, so they are opposite to each other, and then we can drop it in. Okay. And then we're gonna put something through the wrist pin to hold it this high, because now we need to put our ring compressor here. So careful not to turn the rings again, because we stagger them and we want them to stay in that position. We're gonna take out this now. We're gonna tap gently the ring compressor to make sure that it is even. And then with the back of a hammer or something, we tap it in. That's it. Now we can turn the block upside down. Can push this a little bit more, I guess, so the end of the connecting rod is not scratching the cylinder. Well, maybe it was a good idea to put assembly lube on the connecting rod before, because now it is a little bit tricky here. You can push it up like this. Okay, so now we can put assembly lube on the crankshaft and the connecting rod bearing. Do you see it from there, the bearing? Yeah, you do. So and now we can marry them. Okay, it needs to go a little bit lower. Okay, like this. There you go. Now we can take our cup. Again, make sure that this is #1 cup. Put our bearing. Again, a tab that goes into the notch. Make them flush. You know what? Now I'm going to put you on this side so you can see better. Now I mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. It is possible that you put this cup this way or this way. You can reverse it easily because it has sleeves on both sides and the hose match, but only one way is right. And the right way is you have to match the profile, the cut section of the cup with the cut section of the connecting rod. You see, this one is more square and this one is more square, this one is more tapered and this one is tapered. So that's how they go. Of course, we're going to put assembly lube first. And then the bolts. Again, no washers, no lock washers. I don't know why, but that's how it is. And we're going to come back and torque them later, all at the same time. Now though, I want to make sure that this spins freely still and the piston goes up and down, no problem. Okay, and that's it for first cylinder. Now we're going to do the second one. For this reason, we're going to put the crankshaft at bottom dead center for second cylinder, and we're going to rinse and repeat the same way for the other 5. Well guys, I think we did more than enough for one video. We made a good progress, so let's wrap it up here. And we're going to continue in the next one, which is going to be soon, because I want to finish assembling this engine and start it up as soon as possible. I know that many of you can't wait either, and especially kids who gave me these cars. So stay tuned for the next episodes. We're going to try to release them as soon as possible. And as usual, thank you for watching, for commenting and subscribing, for sharing, for supporting the channel, which is really appreciated. Check the Rusty Beauties Facebook group and maybe consider supporting the channel a little bit, but that would be only if you feel like it, because it's not gonna buy you anything. Everything is free already, so I can't give you more than that. But if you feel like supporting me a little bit, there's details in the description of this video about my Patreon or how you can PayPal transfer me, for example. So you can check that if you wish. So thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Yes, you're right. I almost forgot. Actually, I did forget. I admit, I did forget to torque the connecting rod cap. So what happened was I was here ready to torque them. I even checked the spec, and then I got a phone call and I needed to go to pick my kids up from school. And then I came back and I forgot that I didn't torque them. So it is a few days later, and as you can see, I already have the chain and I have the timing done and many other things are installed in the engine. But I remember that I didn't torque this, so I'm coming back. Good thing that you reminded me. So the torque here, actually, I can't do it with this one. I need a smaller torque wrench because the torque here is 46 to 50 foot-pounds. My other one, the big one, starts from 50 and I don't like to be at the end of the range. So that's 45, 46, 47 and a half. Okay, I'm gonna put it at 47 and a half. And now we can torque them. Okay, so now I have a proof that I torqued them. And I hope that you watched with your eyes closed and you didn't see all the other things that are installed on the engine yet, because in your world, these are not there yet.